In today's short tutorial, I'm going to show you how to both use and create illuminated signs in City Skylines 2. This incredible functionality is possible thanks to the WriteEverywhere mod by Clyde45. This is a very powerful mod with huge potential, so I'm excited to show you some features of the mod, which is quickly becoming one of my favourites in CS2. And a big thanks also to Clyde both for his work on the mod and for the help he's given me over the last few weeks, and now can share some of that knowledge with you. I've also today released my first two WriteEverywhere asset packs on PDX Mods, my McDonald's Illuminated Signs pack and an In-N-Out Burger Illuminated Sign. These are just the start of many assets I hope to release through this mod. The first part of the tutorial, I will show you how to use my new assets using the WriteEverywhere mod. This information I think will be more useful to the majority of players who simply want to use my assets. And then I will show you how I made them, so you can understand the process and hopefully be able to make your own in future. The tutorial won't be a full deep dive of WriteEverywhere, as the mod does many things, and I'm still discovering a lot myself, but for now I will teach you the basics. It's not as complicated as it might look. I will show you how to use images to create 3D logos and signs, and how to add emissive properties to the image so that it glows. And I say 3D, but technically this isn't 3D, it's just a little trick I'm using which helps give it that 3D look, and it's pretty convincing, right? So if you enjoy the assets and find the tutorial useful, please give the video a like and let me know what you think down in the comments below. Now, WriteEverywhere is a mod which has been around for quite a while. Actually, the mod does many things, some complicated, some easy, but I think a lot of new players may look at the mod description and think it's pretty advanced and not quite know where to start. And by Clyde's own admission, the instructions previously available may not have been easy reading to new users. But trust me when I say it's not as complicated as you think, at least in the ways we'll be using it today. And hopefully today's video will help explain things in a more simple manner, so you can start using the mod effectively in your city. So around a month ago, I stumbled across this very talented City Skylines 2 player from Asia on YouTube. Unfortunately, I have no idea how to say his name to give him a shout out, but I saw him using WriteEverywhere and adding emissive lights to the fonts. This was the first time I saw this. Honestly, it blew my mind. I had no idea this was even possible. And yeah, I knew I needed to get this mod and learn it myself. A few weeks later, one of our Discord members, Liron, posted a written guide for WriteEverywhere, so a huge shout out to Liron for that, and to SpaceChad for both helping open my eyes to the potential of this mod. So in its simplest form, the mod allows players to be able to do exactly what the mod is called, to write everywhere. You can install fonts and write in a 3D space. There is of course a lot more advanced stuff you can do. I know Clyde has created like custom street signs and vehicle signs and things like that. Whilst fonts are cool and will be fine for a lot of people, I'm not super keen on using fonts directly in game, especially when sharing assets. Instead, what excites me the most about this mod, what first drew me to it, is we're actually able to use images, kinda like decals. So I can add this logo to this wall, for example, and position it just where I want it. Now you may be thinking, what's the big deal? Why not use a decal through the extra assets importer mod? And yeah, you're kind of right, in this situation you could, but there are a few big differences. So you can see if we just slide the object off to the side. See now how the image is floating in mid-air. This isn't possible with decals. Decals cannot just float in the air. They have to be attached to something like a wall. And trust me when I say, this is game changing. There is so much you could probably do with this functionality. Not only that, but WriteEverywhere also includes functionality to add emissive properties to the asset, so we can create illuminated and neon signs, which is just so cool, and it's going to open up so many doors for detailers. So let's start with those of you who have downloaded or want to download my WriteEverywhere assets on PDX Mods. Of course, make sure you've added my mod and the WriteEverywhere mod to your active playset before beginning. Now, it's important to note you can't just place a WriteEverywhere asset anywhere. It needs to be connected to an existing asset like a prop or a building. So I have three here: a pole, a building, and just something small like a rock. I think the rock is just something we could easily hide if we wanted to. Of course, just choose whatever object fits your particular situation. So let's start with the tram pole, and we'll attach the McDonald sign to the top. And it's very easy to do this. To enter WriteEverywhere, we first need to press Ctrl-Shift-W, and you'll see this little menu appear just to let you know you're in the mod, and then click on the asset. So it would be a slightly different process creating something from new, but seeing as we're just loading in my pre-made assets, we can go directly to the Import Load button and click Import Layout from XML at root. You'll now see this menu. Likely yours will be blank here if you haven't used WriteEverywhere before. So let's click on this icon, Templates from Mods, and we can see my mod is in the dropdown, and here are all of my assets you can use. So I'll select the large sign and hit OK, and my asset has now appeared. So the we images, they will always go to the pivot point of the object, which is almost always at the bottom center of the asset. In the menu here, you can see my sign. I won't go into it now, but you can see it's made up from a bunch of sub-objects and layers. So let's click on the top layer, the parent of the object. You can see in this menu here, there's a bunch of different tools to help position and rotate the asset. And if I click on this button and change it to the vertical arrows, I can then slide the image up and into the correct height. I need to then change the vertical arrow to the horizontal arrow by clicking on this button. Now you can see I can move the object left to right. To move it front to back, I need to change the editing plane to this icon. And you can see now we can move the sign forwards and backwards, and I can get the sign into the correct position. So it's really that simple. Choose an object to attach to, import my assets using WriteEverywhere, and then just position it where you want. And how cool is this sign, by the way? You know, as soon as I saw the functionality of we, to have like vertical images and emissive glows, I instantly thought the golden arches is just an absolutely perfect use of the mod. So let's move on to the next, and I'll do it again with a different one of my we assets. So Ctrl-Shift-W to enter the mod, select the object, import layout from XML at root, click on my mod from the drop-down and choose the asset you want. Now you'll notice nothing has appeared, at least where we can see it, and that's because, like I said, it will always import to the pivot point of the asset, which is the bottom center. So it's of course hidden underneath the building mesh. So in the we menu, click on my asset, and if you can't locate it, you can actually click on this camera icon here, and it will align the camera to the asset selected. So I think we might be on the wrong editing plane here. So if we switch to this one, and you can see we're now right in front of it. And just like we did previously, we can start to move the McDonald's logo up and into the right position. So I'm actually going to come out of camera mode because I think I just prefer to move freely now, and I can locate the asset and see it. And there we go, the sign is now in the right position and ready to go, and it's pretty easy, right? So the third one, I'll just do quickly, but I chose a rock, mainly just because I thought there might be some examples where you don't want your asset to appear connected to something visible. If you choose something like a rock, you can always hide the rock or lower it underground, and then the Wii asset will appear like it's not connected to anything. And I'm just going to repeat the same steps as we did on the previous ones. So that's a simple guide on how to use my assets. So please go and download them on PDX Mods and have these awesome illuminated signs in your city. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I built them. This will be beneficial in case you want to create your own signs in your city. I will also show you how I achieved this 3D effect. So let's hop on over to my city, Los Angeles, and there's a spot here next to the highway from episode 7. It seems like it would be a good location for a McDonald's. So I'm just going to delete this motel, it's undetailed anyway, unlike the other two. I'm using the static ploppables version of North American Commercial Low 4x5. It's actually a pretty close match to how they look in real life, and a perfect choice to use. And I'm just going to speed run us through me detailing it up, everything except the WriteEverywhere stuff. As me detailing, it's not the point of this tutorial, but I do think there will be some who would like to see how I built it. I'm also using McDonald's decals through the Extra Assets Importer mod, some from my Big Brands decal pack on PDX Mods, and some from the McDonald's pack on PDX Mods. Now I think this pack might actually be broken on PDX Mods, but his pack was fixed and shared locally by Harrison on Discord. Okay, so we have the building, and now we just need the signs to really help bring this to life. So I'll show you how I created them. So we're going to start off the same way, Ctrl-Shift-W and select the building. Now instead of doing what we did last time, where we imported an XML file, we instead need to click on this plus icon and we'll select Add Empty to Root. And empty because we haven't chosen anything yet, like an image or text. Root because that's the top level of the folder structure, the root layer. So this will be the parent object, and any sub-objects you apply to this will be a child of the layer above. Think of this just like folders and subfolders on your PC. So click on the item we've created and we can rename this if we want. Now again, the placeholder text will be at the pivot point in the bottom center of the asset. And rather than going inside the asset this time and shuffling it around and into position, I'm just going to simply set the height to be above the asset. It's only a small building, so 10 meters will be enough. The height, the y-axis, will be the middle value of the 3. And you can see now it's visible above the building, and I'll just drag it into position using the editing planes, just like I did earlier in the video. So in the bottom right menu, I'm now going to switch from text to image. You can see in the drop down there are some other options you can use, like cubes. So we will get a default image initially, which I will swap out for my McDonald's logo. So we first need to select an atlas. Think of an atlas just like a folder, which my images are inside. You can see how I have the images here. There's actually 2 versions of the McDonald's arch, which I will be using, one with a normal map and one without, which I will explain later why I've done this. Actually, a quick side note here, so one very useful thing about WriteEverywhere, so if you make a change within your atlas, is you can update your images in-game without needing to restart. You can go into options and select refresh sprites, and your updated image will be now loaded into the game. You can just ignore this error message, which as a creator is just so awesome and such a time saver. So back to it, I need to select my mod from the Atlas dropdown, and then I can choose an image in the fields below. And you can see it appears in game. In this menu, I can resize it based on the height, and that looks good, but of course it's just so thin, it's just an image, it doesn't really look natural from some angles. So this is where the trick comes in. So I actually learnt this trick from MacWelshman, one of the creators of the UK region pack. If we look at his hotel asset, you can see the text from hotel. It looks 3D, but it's actually just two images placed on top of each other. And in the case of WriteEverywhere, I think I could do something similar. And I'm just going to raise this up just for a moment so you can see it a bit more clearly. So we're going to stack many images on top of each other at regular intervals. And there's a method I found which makes this easy, so I don't need to manually do each and every single one. So make sure you have the image layer, the parent, selected, and we're going to export selected as XML and give it a name. You can look at where it exports the XML if you like, but I'm just going to click back. Now I want to load that same image which I just exported, but make it a child of the original, like a sub-object. So I'll click import, and this time select import layout from XML as child, and then choose the exported file we just made. You'll see the original layer has an arrow on it now, and if we click on it, we can see there's a sub-object. So now select this child image. But where is this second image we've just added? Well, it's kind of offset by double at the moment from the original building. So the parent is located, these values off from the building, and then the sub-object, the copy of the logo, is again, it's the same values away from the original logo. So if we change all of these values to 0, the child will now be positioned directly on top of the parent. And if I just slide it along, I can show you that it's there. So now I'm going to make this minus 0.02 meters away from the original on the z-axis. And you can see now we have two right next to each other. But don't worry, we don't need to do that every single time, as we've now set up the offset correctly. So now I'm going to again export this XML and give it a name. If you choose the same name, the mod will just add a suffix like _1 or 2. So now we can import the next layer onto the last one we've made. Just make sure you're always going into the next drop down and selecting the previous child you made, and then importing the next as a child to the last child you've made. You'll see we don't really need to do much now, except just load in the next one, as the positioning offset is all set up correctly. So this sign, I created 12 different layers. That's enough to make it look nice and thick. During my testing, I did notice after 16 layers of sub-objects, it did kind of stop working. But you can continue on. You just need to start again from the top of the list. Okay, so you have a 3D looking image now, and it's amazing, honestly, how convincing it looks. So there's a few more things to do. So when we look at the reverse of the sign, it's important to know that images, they only really face in one direction from the front. So what we're seeing here from the back, it's technically the back face of the asset. Generally, it is a good idea to not show the back face. So after speaking with Clyde, he added in this feature to the mod, Flip Z-Axis. And you can see that already looks a ton better. The shadows are now facing in the right way. So this is going to flip the back face to be the front face. Just make sure you have the correct layer selected. We want the one at the bottom of the stack. Okay, so the sign is mostly done now, and we can add the emissive properties and see it glow. And there's two methods I'm going to show you for this. The first is simple. So there's a button here called Appearance Settings. This opens up a new menu. And there's options here for things like metallic and smoothness. You can play with these if you like. And also a main color you can change. But we don't want any of that for this sign. What we do want is emission intensity. And using the slider, we can start to see it glow. How cool is that? There's also emission color, which is useful for like the yellow McDonald's arch, for example. We would want that to glow yellow, but as this is white, we can just leave it white. So this will glow in both the daytime and nighttime, but there's actually a pretty cool way to only make it glow at nighttime. So in the daytime, it will be off, and at nighttime, it will glow. It might seem a little complicated, but if you follow my steps, you will be fine. So we're going to use a formula. This makes the game turn it on at night. So if we click this formulas icon and then click on the search icon, we will get this menu. We can then click add stage at end. In the new menu which pops up, choose static object, then choose mod, then Belzond WE, and then the second one down on the left column, WE effects, and finally get nightlight. Don't worry about the other stuff in those menus just for this, just follow the ones I clicked on. But that's not quite it, we need to do something else, so next we'll add another stage at end. This time we will choose math operation. For the operation we will choose multiply and the value, so this is basically the intensity of the light. So let's just choose 7 for now. And that's done, so you can see during the day there is no glow, the lights are off, and then if we switch to night, the sign starts glowing, which is super cool. And just a quick FYI, so I have been told formulas may affect performance and FPS, so just use them minimally, or if you are finding you're getting quite a bit of lag, then you can try just removing the formulas and just go with the glow during day and night, the simple way I showed. So I think this emission at night is actually a bit too much, so let's lower the value a little. Now I don't actually have to go back into the previous menus where we set it up. The formula is right here in this box. So if I just scroll to the right of the formula, you'll see the number you set for the value, and I can adjust here accordingly. So there we have it, the completed sign. And it looks so cool with the emission, with the 3D effect. So again, just top work by Clyde on this mod. It really feels like such a game changer. I think so much cool stuff will come out of this mod. I've got so many ideas already myself of other stuff which I want to try. So I'm going to skim through the next two super quick for you too. Although these are mostly the same thing, so I'm not going to repeat the entire process. The main differences are, with this arch, I will be using emission color as well, so it glows in yellow, not white. It's worth noting on the arches, like I mentioned earlier, I have two versions, one with a normal map and one without. So the outer two layers, the front and the back layer of the sign, these I want the normal map version. It just helps give it a bit more depth and softens the edges of those layers. But for the inside layers, the ones which help make it 3D, I don't want to use my normal map version of the logo. If you create your own signs, this level of detail isn't particularly necessary, but I think in this case it does just enhance the look. And on the larger sign, rather than only using images, I've also used the cubes which are available from the dropdown. So I'd encourage you to, get the mod and just start playing around and seeing what you can create. I'm excited to see what other interesting and unique assets the community can make from these. And of course, it is possible to share them on PDX Mods too. Now it is a little complicated, kind of similar to how we are uploading extra asset importer decal packs. But once you've done it once, it's a lot easier than in future. Clyde does have like a GitHub template which you can use, but I do think the instructions, it could be easier for people to follow, because there was quite a few steps which I figured out myself, but there was a few things which I did have to question Clyde about. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy the new assets, and I hope this tutorial will give you a helping hand into getting started with WriteEverywhere. I know I'm going to be using this mod a lot more in future. I have some more assets incoming very soon, and lots of ideas for future stuff I want to try. So please like and comment if you enjoyed and found this useful, and I'll catch you all again soon for the next video.